What's up guys? So today we're going to be fixing the steering angle sensor on my E92 335i. The car has developed a problem where sometimes the steering angle gets out of whack and it doesn't return perfectly to center like it should. Also, it's tripped out errors with the traction control, stability control, automatic hold on hills, the turn signals. They still work and everything, but they won't self-cancel once you've completed a turn. And also because these systems are being tripped out by the steering angle sensor and registering a fault, the cruise control doesn't work either while these errors are on. It doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes the car will work fine for probably around 10-20 minutes, but as soon as you make quite a significant left turn or making slow speed turns like a U-turn, it trips out the faults again. So I believe it's a steering angle sensor which is housed in the cowling back here inside a module box. From what I've read online, the sensor can get a bit dirty and there's a printed circuit disc in there that can also get a bit of gunk on it as the equipment is getting older. I did take the car to the dealership and they quoted me how much it would cost to fix this. They will not do the steering angle sensor cleaning. They'll only replace the entire SZL box, I believe it's called. And the quote was like over $1,000. So I figured I'd try it myself first. If it doesn't work out and it is actually the SZL module box, then I can still just replace it anyway. It's going to cost the same either way. But at least this way I can try it myself and possibly it could cost me next to nothing. So I'll go ahead and show you what the faults look like, and I'll show you some of the side effects or symptoms I'm experiencing with the car. Here we go. You can see we got some error lights in the dash. I'll put my belt on so that that one at least goes away. If we take off the e-brake, you can see there I still have some error lights in there. The traction control light, the brake warning light. And as you can see over here in the iDrive, we have the flat tire monitor system has failed, DSC failure, driving stability. Sometimes it'll also say the active start function or something is not working. And as I said, the turn signals, they work fine, but they won't self-cancel once you get through the turn. Cruise control doesn't work because the faults are there, so it won't allow it because it's unsafe. Window wipers still work. That all functions fine. So I believe it's just going to be the sensor. So that's what we're going to be fixing today. Also, sometimes when you come out of quite a significant turn, when you recenter the wheel, it isn't perfectly centered. So the wheel might be like this, how it is now, but the car is driving perfectly straight. My car does have the active steering, so it changes the steering lock ratio on the rack depending on the speed that the car is traveling, so that it's easier to turn the wheel in parking lots and things like that, and then at higher speed on the highway. So we'll go ahead, we'll turn the car off now and we'll get straight into it. Alright, so before we get into this, please realize that this can be a risky repair doing it yourself. It's not too difficult or anything if you take it carefully and you don't break anything. We are going to be working with some fragile pieces in here, as there are little electronic bits in there. It controls your turn signals, your wipers and all that, all the control stalks, buttons on the steering wheel itself, the angle of it and everything. So just be aware that there are delicate electronic bits in here that you need to be careful with. Even the clips that we're going to be removing for cables and things, you do have to be a bit careful with them. So do this at your own risk. Be aware that you can break things and you can mess up your car. I will not be liable for any of that stuff. Also, this may not fix everyone's issues. You can have similar symptoms to this, but it may just be that your steering angle housing or the SZL module is just messed up and you will have to get it replaced. So yeah, it could be that this is the same problem you're having. The steering angle sensor is a bit dirty, or it could be that you just need to replace the module, in which case you'll have to take it to the dealership and get them to fix it, or you can order the part online, but I know it is still an expensive part, so it may be cheaper to just get the dealership to do it for you. First thing we have to do is disconnect the battery in the back, as we are going to be removing the airbag, and I'm going to give it about 10 minutes to sit and make sure everything gets fully discharged before I go ahead and attempt to remove the airbag, because, you know, better safe than sorry. I don't want it blowing up in my face. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And it is down here under the shelf. Now I recommend you find something as well that you can put like this in between the trunk latch so that the boot will not close and lock. Because we're disconnecting the battery, if it locks, you will no longer be able to get it open. I'm just going to set you guys on the other side there. This will be easier to do with two hands. Just got to get this hook out of the way. There we go. Set that in the back there. And we're just going to be removing the negative terminal. Looks about that big. Yep. Alright, one thing I forgot to mention before we disconnected the battery was to make sure that your wheels are straight, or that your steering wheel is straight. I'm just going to back up a bit because I do come in on an angle to park here. So just check that. Our wheels are pretty straight. Yeah, that looks good. So yeah, just make sure your steering wheel's straight before you disconnect the battery and get going on this, because we do need to line everything up correctly again when we put it all back together so that our steering wheel isn't permanently off. So we are just using a 10mm socket and we're just removing the negative terminal here. Hopefully you can see that. It's a bit dark in here. Make sure it's loosening. Pull that off. So this doesn't come right off, it'll just loosen to a certain point. It's made so it'll lock in there so that you can't lose the nut and bolt off there, but just remove the terminal. And then I suggest also getting something to put in here like that, so that the terminal cannot fall back onto the post and reconnect. So just make sure it's well under there and that there's no way for that to fall back onto the post, because we don't want that reconnecting while we're working around the airbag. I'm just going to let the car sit for a little while just to make sure everything is discharged. It should be fine, but just to be safe. And we'll make sure that this moving blanket is in here enough that that won't close. Just lower that down like that. So next step is to actually remove the airbag. You have these slits in the back of the steering wheel right here, and then the same on this other side. I'll see if I can show you. But what you're going to need is a screwdriver, like a flathead. This one's probably a bit too big. I'm just using this here. You want it to be kind of slim or small enough to get in there, and basically you have to push in with this through that slit in the steering wheel and push on. It's kind of a piece of wire that's holding the airbag in there. I'll try to show you what these slits in the wheel look like. It's a bit hard to see because it's so dark back here, but there's a little slit in the leather there, and you can see there my screwdriver goes straight through there. So it's the same on the other side as well. You have to release both sides. As you can see, I've already released the right side here, and we'll go ahead and do the left right now. Once it's off, I can give you guys a bit of a better look at what exactly is happening here. Let me just find. So you should be able to feel there's a piece of wire in there that latches the airbag in. You can kind of feel it, but it's just slipping off of it. If you're using a flathead, you want to put it in sideways like this into the wheel. It'll make it easier rather than going this way. It's just going to slip off the wire like that if you put it that way. Whereas this way you'll have an easier time pushing the wire. Alright, there we go. I was having trouble getting the left side off with the right already off. So I've pushed the right side back in, and now the left has popped out easy. Now we'll try and get the right side off again. And there we go. So now you'll have two connectors here. They've got these little release clips. You pop those off and you'll be able to remove the connectors. So I'll take the camera back so you guys can get a better look at that. So hopefully you can see there. There's a black one and the green one. And you want to be careful here. See these little tabs on the top. Let me try angle this better. All right, we're going to lift these up. My screwdriver might be a bit big for this. All right, I found a smaller screwdriver that can get in these tabs. There we go. So they've just got these small plastic locks on them, and then you should be able to remove the connectors quite easily. Just careful that you don't snap these tabs off or anything. You need those. All right, so there we go. Our airbag is removed. You can put that on the side here. Now that we have the airbag off, I can show you guys what you're actually doing to remove it. Let me move these connectors out of the way. So I have my screwdriver and I'm inserting it through the slit in the wheel there. So you can see my screwdriver there, and then I'm pushing, hopefully you can see that this wire there is moving, and that releases the clips on the back of the airbag. You do that on both sides. Here, you're pushing through here, and it's pushing this wire here, and then the same on the side here. So now we're going to get these two clips here disconnected. On mine it's a gray one and a black one. So for the black one, you just want to pry down on the top of the clip a little, or pry up, I guess, and carefully pull that out. You can see there. Hopefully I can zoom it in for you guys in editing. And then the gray one, you push down on the top and it will release the clip for that. And there we go, we have both of those out. Okay, next we are going to remove the steering wheel bolt. We're going to be using it's a 5/8 socket or a 16 mil metric socket. Should fit perfectly. This is a 17, it'll work, but it's a little loose. 15's too small, but a 16 should fit perfect. So we're just going to go ahead and get this off. You'll have to hold the wheel just to break it loose. Okay, so now that that is loosened, just undo that. All right, and there we go. So now there are some index marks in here, one on the steering wheel, one on the column, and that's for you to be able to line up the wheel correctly. So I will pull the camera down so you guys can see that. There is the mark on the steering wheel itself, and then on the column you have that line in it with the green marking. So when we put the steering wheel back, that's what we need to line up. And you can see there's also a little ridge there. You got all these teeth all the way around, and then here where the mark is, it has a longer ledge as well anyway, so that I think it only goes in one way. So we're just going to go ahead and remove the steering wheel. It's off now. And here we are, here we're left with the steering column and the surround. So now we have to split apart this plastic housing around the column. So what you have to do is you have to kind of pry these two pieces apart. You have the lower cowling and the upper cowling, and there are these little circular clips here connect the two together, and you sort of have to pry those apart to get it to, you know, unsnap so that you can sort of separate them here. I'll try to get the right side off, but you guys should be able to see in the video whereabouts I'm working, and then once I get them apart I will bring the camera closer in so you guys can see. It is a bit of a pain to get in there, and I'm trying to just be careful because I don't want to break any clips, because this does all have to go back together. So I'm trying not to snap anything. This is all just plastic, so it's easy to break things off. All right, so there's obviously some clips in the back here too. We've released the front ones, which are right here. There we go. We seem to have released the left side. I'll do the same on this side, and there we go. Lucky this car has a sunroof. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't get a very good angle for you. Come on. There we go. lower cowling is off. This one can just sit on the side. So I will handhold the camera and try and show you guys how to go about doing that. Once you have an idea of where to apply pressure, it's actually not too bad. So here you can better see those clips on the upper cowling. So there's the first one at the front. Here are the second ones further down, and then there's one at the back there. Hopefully you guys can see all of that. So yeah, if you get the front ones off first, just kind of pry these back off of the posts that they connect to on the lower cowling. That's what they clip onto. If you can pry this first tooth off of it, then it should kind of release. Then you just have the fun part of prying this one apart. For these front ones, to get them started, I had to reach in like this and pull that first side of the clip off, and then that released. Did the same on the other side. And then for the back ones, I kind of just pried the upper housing off like that, off of the lower one, and that seemed to release it. So now that's just sitting there. That's fine. We're just going to leave it there. This lower one is a little trickier. So this metal piece here is what it all connects to. That's what the lower cowling is connected by. That's how it locks in. And then the upper cowling locks into the bottom one, and it holds it all together. Alright, so I think this is about as good as I'm going to get it in terms of an angle to show you guys. So here we have our lower cowling. Now this main section here is where you have to focus your attention. So this is the front of it. This post is what connects to that front connector there on the upper cowling. And then this section here is the main release for this lower piece. So these two teeth here, they latch onto these two posts here. And then this finned piece here is what this plastic piece latches over. So you got to kind of pull that back so it unlatches off of that fin, and then you have to release these two. And I found the best way to do that, you try get your screwdriver underneath here, pry the lower plastic piece off of those, mainly this front one. If you can get it off the front one, the pressure of that popping off should pop the second one as well. And then these extra ones down the back, they just come out. So yeah, once you know whereabouts you have to apply the pressure to, it actually comes off pretty easy, but it's just annoying trying to even see in there. The right side's definitely easier. The left side is a little trickier because its little plastic shroud intrudes a little more on the posts here. And then you also have the steering column adjuster. I had to pull that down so that I could wedge the lower half of the cowling off. So the next thing we need to do is remove this clock spring mechanism off of the steering rack. So we have 4 bolts. Let me see here. I believe they're T20 Torx bits. Yeah, it's a T20. So we're going to go ahead and get those off. That's the wrong bloody one. This will probably make it a little easier now. Go. One. Got 2. 3. And 4. Alright. Those in there. Down there with the wheel. So now that we have the 4 bolts out, there are 2 release tabs, one on the top here, one on the bottom right under it, and then there's also this connector in the back, and that's, once you get those all out, plus your 4 bolts. Then this whole clock spring housing should be removable. I've already done so, and there we go, that's off. So this tab on the top, this tab on the bottom, and then this connector, make sure I get it in the shot, this connector here, which connects with this connector cable down here. And then what is left is this unit here, which has our stalks on it, and I think there's only one connector left that is holding this in. So that's where the 4 bolts were that bolted straight through the clock spring housing into this. This is where our circuit disc and steering angle sensor that needs cleaning is inside here. Those bolts go straight through into this and then into the steering column there. So this was the connector that was connected to this here on the clock spring housing. So now I believe all we have left is this cable. Get this one out of the way. This cable here, which is connected to this unit. I'll get that out, and then this whole piece should lift out no problem because it's really just sitting there. Alright, so I'm just going to remove this whole module off like that. As you can see, this is the last connector. You have to push down on this piece, and then the gray switch should be able to go over the top of it. And then as you pull that gray switch all the way back, it should pull the whole connector out. Alright. There we go. So you just have to make sure you push this gray arm all the way down. It'll pop the connector out there. We'll take this module into the garage on the workbench so you can get a better look at it, and we'll get to fixing this. Alright. There's a nice Holden out there. So here we have our unit. The lighting in here is pretty shocking. I've set up this little stand so I can record a top-down view for you guys like that. I'll try set up a light so you guys can see a bit better because it's getting too dark. Alright, so one thing we need to take note of are these indexing marks here. I'll move the camera up closer so you guys can see. Hopefully you can see there, there's an arrow there, and then there's a small arrow in there. And note that this center piece can rotate, it can move, but that's how you make sure they're aligned correctly. So we're going to take this housing cover off so that we can get to the disc and the steering angle sensor inside. So we're going to release these clips here, 2 on the top here. I can see 1 here on the left side, 1 here on the right side. They're right next to the stalk, so that's good. There's another one here on the right near the bottom, and looks like the only other one is this bottom one here. So we're going to get those off, and then this cover should lift off. I think that's how we do it. So we're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and get these clips off. And now we have one more over here. This one at the bottom, there's conveniently a small hole here on the rear of the housing that lets you fit your screwdriver through to catch the latch there. Except my screwdriver, the head is, it thickens too quickly, so it's not going to let me get in there. So let me see if I can find a smaller one, or this may just, no, I'll just unclip it from the side here if I can. There we go. That released it, so you can even just pry like this and it'll get it off. This one is reconnected. Alright. Now all the clips should be disconnected, and carefully take that off. Cool. And yep, I can already see, hopefully you guys can see this, there seems to be a lot of crystallized stuff on the disc there, so we'll have to clean that up. So I think what we're going to have to do is take this IR cover off here. Those are very small Torx bits. I don't think I have any that small. But yeah, I think we'll have to remove this, get the disc out, and then we'll just clean the surface very carefully. Now I was reading online, they said don't clean the other side, the back side of it, as it has etchings on it, and that is how the turn signals and things like that operate, by reading that disc. This little IR laser in here reads that disc or something to that effect, and that's how it controls all the stalks and the steering angle and everything. So we don't want to ruin that other side, but this side we can clean up. Just looking at this, I don't believe I have Torx bits small enough for these. I don't know how small those are. They may be like T5s or something like that, because that's really tiny. The smallest I have is a T10, this one here, and I can already see that is way too big. The whole head of the screw is about the size of this Torx. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to actually get that cover off of there. So what I might try to do, because there is a lot of gunk on this disc, I hope you can see that there, just how bad it is. They look almost like metal shavings. I've read online that the disc may have come with a protective layer that over time has broken down, and it's started to get all these little cracks and imperfections. That's all those little silver bits you guys can probably see on camera. And so when the laser tries to read the disc, that is getting in the way, and it is screwing it up and tripping out all the systems. So what I might try to do is just use my microfiber. I've got some isopropyl alcohol here. What I might try to do is just spray this cloth with a bit, not too much. And just make sure it's not too wet. And I think we'll just try and carefully, I'll just test on a piece of this here. I'll have to hold the disc. Yeah, that's working really good. It's coming up smooth. All right, so I'm going to try clean this off. I'm just getting a clean section each time, spraying it with a little more. All right, you can already see there, this is a dirty section here. You can see those little silver flecks on it. And this is a section we've just cleaned. Already with the cloth, it feels a lot smoother. You can feel that there's no more granule stuff on there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean the rest. And then I might even get a clean microfiber, another one, and give it another pass with the isopropyl just to make sure there's no residue left on there. Alright, so I've done the first pass. It's pretty much clean now. I've got all that stuff off of it. I'm just going to go over it again. I'll make sure I've got a really clean section of the towel. And I'm just going to carefully go over everything once more. I just want to make sure I get it as clean as I can, because I don't want to have to be doing this again. This does seem to be a little bit of it looks like residue, but it may just be the disc itself. Either way, it's a lot cleaner than it was. That should be pretty good. So we'll go ahead with that. We'll reassemble this housing, and I'll get it back in the car and just test it out, see if that's good enough. If not, I may just have to try get a smaller Torx to remove this. The laser may need cleaning as well, but I'm thinking it's just this disc that was dirty, all those little flecks on it. So we'll get this back in the car. Let's go ahead and put this housing back on. Let's give this a little clean as well. Let's move this out of the way so that it doesn't get dust on it. Just make sure it's all clean in here, because this is going straight back on top of that disc. There's a little bit of something greasy there. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a grease thing there. I can feel the friction on the towel. That's all right. All right, we'll go ahead and put this back on. Like that. Make sure the clips go back down. And then we want to make sure our disc, that the index on our disc is matching with the arrow on the housing. And we'll take this and put it back in the car. Let's try to get this back in before we lose all the light. All right. So this part should be pretty easy. Basically just reinstall everything in reverse order. So I'll go ahead and set you guys back on the mount and let's get to it. Here we go. So go ahead. First thing is we have to reconnect this connector here, the right angle one, put that back in, pull the gray switch, and that should lock it back in. Now we go ahead and get this mounted back onto the steering column. Our ring is moved a bit, so make sure that lines up again with the arrow. Okay, that looks good. Feed this connector back through here. We'll get our clock spring housing. This is actually pretty filthy, so I'm going to go get that microfiber and I'm just going to clean this up a little bit because it's got a ton of dust. So I've just cleaned it up a little bit because it was covered in dust in here and everything else. So just tidied it up a little bit with the microfiber. So we're going to go ahead and put this back on, line up the holes there, and then make sure all the tabs click back on. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect this connector in the back. Make sure all these clips are on right. Don't want to have to be pulling this apart again. Okay, so next we're going to get our 4 bolts here. Call me paranoid, but I just wanted to check one more time and make sure I had those 2 lined up, because I do not want to have to take this off again. If it works, I don't want to have to be undoing it again because the calibration is off or anything like that. So I was just making sure once more before I tighten down these bolts that is right. All right, we'll clip that back on, this connector back in. Sorry about that, guys. I want to be sure it's done right the first time. Let's go ahead and get these bolts going again. That one was going in pretty easy. Try to get this one going. Right, it seems to like that one. Right, last one. Now I can start tightening these down a bit. If you work with computers a bit, you'll know that you want to like work your way around rather than tightening one screw down, because then it causes flex in the component because you got it all this pressure on that point. And then the rest of the component will bulge outwards, and then when you screw the next corner in, it's going to flex it even more and create tension across the unit or whatever it is you're working on. And you just slowly work your way around, tightening down each one. Alright, that's on there good now. It's not going anywhere. So put this back. 30. This one is at 20. This one back. Oh, goodness. Well, that's gone. It's a good thing I have skinny little hands. Just put our cowling back. Yes. Yep. Got our lower cowling here. We'll get that in there. Where are we going? Yeah, that looks right on that side. And let's try to get these clips back on. I think we'll try to get this right side first, as that's the one that needs to line up the most, or has the most stuff to line up with, I guess I should say. There we go. Did I say right side first? I meant left. There we go. Both sides are on now. Now we're just gonna flip the top cowling, top half of the cowling back in. The front's done. That front side's done. Left side back is done. Right side back is done. Okay, that seems pretty good. Now we will go ahead and put our wheel back on. We just want to make sure our lines match up. So just going to carefully line it up. There we go. Alright, we will go ahead and put our connectors back in. A black one, grey and yellow one. Get our airbag connectors out. There's the way there. Let's take our steering wheel bolt. Where did I put that? Got our socket. It's gone there. Where's the extension? Get that thread started. And then going to take our torque wrench and set it to 62 Newton meters, which let me just have a look here, is around 46 pound-feet, and that is what we're going to be tightening this bolt to. So there we go. Now we'll take our airbag. So these only go in one way. To get that lined up correctly, make sure it goes in and then it should lock down. Same for the black one. There we go. Make sure it locks down the tabs on the top, and then we are going to just line this back up. So get it lined up and then just push on the airbag and it should clip in on both sides. All we have to do now is reconnect the battery and we will see if it has fixed it. Guys, up over here on that side and get this bag out of the way. I'm just having a last minute think. Have I missed anything? I think we're good. Let's go ahead and get that on. And we'll tighten that bolt back down. Alright, this out, and let's go see if it's worked or not. Okay, so let's start her up. Still have some problems in there. Right, so we still have the lights, but we'll go ahead and turn the wheel all the way to the left and then all the way to the right, and then recenter it. We'll see. Alright guys, so we got the car all back together. At first when I started the car, it still had all the lights and errors on, but then all I did was turn the steering wheel all the way to the left, turn it all the way to the right, and then recenter it, and that I've read online that resets the steering angle sensor. And then I just took the car for a short drive, so it was still showing lights until I'd gotten out of my driveway and pulled away. And then the lights all went away. I've been driving for about probably 5 to 10 minutes now, and the lights haven't come back. The car's functioning like normal again. Turn signals are turning themselves off. no error lights or status messages or anything. I'll quickly show you the dash. As you can see there, we've only got the red brake light because my parking brake is on. If I turn that off, you can see there, no lights. Car is fine. If we go into settings, there we go, check control messages, no faults. So we are good again. The traction control and stability control errors are all gone. No problems, turn signals and everything are working correctly again. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out, how the fixes worked. Hopefully it works for you guys just as well.